We no longer require your presence here. Kindly vacate the premises. You work from home, freeloader, declared my sister with an air of finality. Even my parents, in a harmonious chorus, chimed in, adding, get out. We've grown tired of a family that treats both you and your dog as nuisances. If they're going to adopt such an attitude, then I'll do as I please. It was at this point that my plan for revenge began to take shape. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Kathy, a 33-year-old single woman who makes her living as a freelance web designer. My job can be executed entirely from the comfort of my home, thanks to the wonders of modern technology. I possess a dedicated workspace within my house and the luxury of setting my own pace. Despite having such a fulfilling job, an unexpected disruption entered my life 2 years ago, in the form of my parents. One day, as I was diligently working from home, my parents made an unannounced visit. The moment they crossed the threshold, they began examining my living space and initiated a conversation that would set the course for the tumultuous events that followed. My Kathy, this house is quite spacious. It almost seems like we could live here too, remarked my mother, her eyes wandering around the room. That's true, and it appears there's even a spare room. It seems like a shame for Kathy to live in such a large house all by herself, my father concurred. In their usual fashion, my parents had made a decision without consulting me. I had no intentions of cohabiting with them and made my stance clear. Hold on a moment. I have no desire to live with you too. What are you even suggesting? My father's face turned a shade of red as he angrily retorted. This house was taken over by you, claiming it was from your uncle. You're trying to make it yours. There's a limit to how low you can go. I attempted to clarify, I didn't take it over. I had a proper conversation with Uncle, and he willingly gave it to me. Disregarding my protestations, my parents had already decided to move in. I vehemently expressed my unwillingness to share a roof with them. However, my parents were insistent. Our old house is falling apart, they claimed, and it's no longer sustainable for us to live there. My mother, a homemaker, and my father, whose salary wasn't particularly substantial, were in no position to afford the necessary renovations. Consequently, they set their sights on the house I had inherited from my uncle. I couldn't simply abandon them in their predicament, so I reluctantly acquiesced to their moving in. Once they settled into my home, my parents wasted no time in inundating me with sarcastic remarks. Hey Kathy, you're already in your 30s, aren't you? Don't you have any plans of getting married? They taunted, never missing an opportunity to point out my single status. Currently, I find great satisfaction in my work, and I'm truly content with my life. However, there are times when the people around me express concerns about my relationship prospects. They often suggest that I should take cues from my sister, who has a different path in life. Contrary to their expectations, my sister's married life has hit a rough patch. Nevertheless, I remain unfazed, reassuring them that I'm perfectly fine with my current situation. It was during one such discussion that my mother, who had been eavesdropping, decided to intervene in the conversation. She interrupted, "Hey, don't speak ill of your sister like that. Unlike you, she's married, and she's even employed at a company you know." Defending my own choices, I replied, "I might not be married, but I am doing a respectable job too." My mother wasn't convinced and continued, "You're always just messing around on your computer. You're probably making money through some shady means, aren't you?" I retorted, "Shady means? I'm making an honest living doing legitimate work. There's no need to worry." My mother wasn't pleased with my response and scolded, "How dare you talk back to your mother? You really are the complete opposite of your sister." This constant comparison between my sister and me by our parents was something I had grown accustomed to. While my sister worked as a temporary employee in an office job, I had chosen a different path, one that allowed me to work from home. Although I understood that our parents' generation might not fully grasp the concept of remote work, it still hurt to be consistently belittled. However, one day as I was preparing dinner in place of my perpetually idle parents, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. To my surprise, it was my sister Sandy, burdened with a massive amount of luggage. "Huh, Sandy, what's going on? It's been a while," I greeted her. With an air of urgency, Sandy replied, "Kathy, this is sudden, but I'll be living in this house from today." Baffled, I blurted out, "Huh? Living here from today? I didn't hear anything about this." Sandy explained, "Didn't Mom and Dad tell you? I got divorced, you see. So I'll be counting on you from today." Despite my initial shock, I attempted to maintain a welcoming demeanor. Ignoring my startled response, Sandy trudged upstairs and promptly claimed an empty room as her own. My parents sided with her, and I found myself powerless to object. From that moment on, my stress levels began to mount. Sandy, after her divorce, had quit her job, and she spent her days talking negatively about me with our mother. "Hey Mom, isn't this dress cute?" Sandy would ask, showcasing her latest shopping find. Our mother would respond enthusiastically, "Oh yes, indeed, Sandy. You're so pretty, it will definitely suit you." Sandy would then turn to me and remark, "Do you think so too? It's totally not something Kathy would wear, right?" Unable to escape their critical gaze, I continued to live my life without reacting to their taunts. Despite the desire to retaliate, I realized that it would only play into their hands, so I remained steadfast and unresponsive to their attempts to provoke me. One fine day, I found myself in a heartwarming situation when a close friend of mine became the proud owner of a litter of 4 adorable puppies. It was a momentous event that set in motion a series of events that would change my life for the better. The moment I laid eyes on those precious pups, I knew that one of them would soon become a cherished member of my family. After some deliberation, I decided to adopt a little black chihuahua from the litter and named him Muffin. Muffin was an absolute bundle of joy, with the most endearing round eyes that seemed to sparkle with mischief. Every time Muffin gazed at me, his tail would wag with such enthusiasm that it looked as though it might break off from sheer excitement. The dream of owning a chihuahua had been with me since my childhood, and finally having Muffin by my side brought immeasurable happiness to my life. This was especially true since I often worked from home, and the companionship he provided was a welcomed relief from the solitude of my remote workdays. "From today onwards, you're Muffin, okay? Woof," I declared to him, sealing our bond. In the whirlwind of excitement and anticipation, I didn't particularly consult with my family about my decision to bring Muffin home. After all, it was my house, and I was fully responsible for all the expenses related to Muffin's care and well-being. I couldn't see why they should have any complaints. As soon as I introduced Muffin to my family, my parents and my sister Sandy began voicing their concerns and complaints. They expressed their displeasure, stating that they hadn't been informed about my intention to get a dog, and some even mentioned their aversion to the potential odors that dogs could bring. My parents and Sandy were quite vocal in their disapproval. "Hey, we didn't hear anything about you getting the dog," they protested. "Exactly, dogs smell, don't they? I hate odors," someone chimed in. "Kathy, how could you just bring a dog home without consulting us?" We didn't approve of this, they continued to scold me. In the face of their complaints, I firmly defended my decision. I reminded them that Muffin hadn't been picked up off the street, he was a gift from a friend. Moreover, I emphasized that I was the one bearing all the expenses related to Muffin's care and maintenance, so they had no valid grounds for objection. I added, "What I choose to keep in my house is my business. If you have any complaints, you're free to leave." Initially, their anger and frustration continued to smolder. Their faces were flushed with annoyance. However, something miraculous happened within a few hours. They were completely won over by Muffin's undeniable cuteness. They couldn't resist fawning over him, asking, "Aren't you cute? Are you mommy? Are you daddy? Or are you sis? Look over here, sweetheart." It was as if their anger from just moments ago had evaporated into thin air. My entire family had fallen head over heels in love with Muffin, and he had somehow managed to bring about a remarkable transformation in their attitudes. From that point onward, our home was filled with constant fussing over Muffin. Thanks to his presence, the hostility that once existed toward me began to fade away, and I was able to enjoy relatively calm and harmonious days with my family. However, as life would have it, one day an event occurred that shattered the tranquility we had all come to enjoy. While I was out running an errand, I received an urgent call from my sister Sandy. She sounded agitated and demanded, "Come back home now." Startled by her sudden shout, I asked her what had happened. She unleashed her frustration over the phone, shouting back at me, "It's not what happened, it's what Muffin did. He did his business on my clothes. What if they smell?" I tried to calm her down, saying, "Oh, just wash them quickly and they'll be fine. And isn't it your fault for leaving your clothes all over the floor?" Sandy retorted, "What? It's my fault? It's your poor training that's to blame." I sighed, realizing that this was just a minor hiccup. "Enough, Sandy. Muffin is still a puppy, you know. If you take him out for a walk, he won't do his business at home. You said you were excited to walk Muffin today. Did you actually take him?" I had initially planned to take Muffin for a walk later in the day, but little did I know that this seemingly innocuous decision would set off a chain of events that would leave my family in turmoil. You see, the root of the issue lay in the fact that I had not properly trained Muffin, our beloved canine companion. And that day, the repercussions of this shortcoming were about to unfold. Upon returning home, I was met with an atmosphere charged with tension. My sister, evidently furious, was the first to confront me. She wasted no time in expressing her discontent, her anger palpable. It was clear that she had already informed our parents of the situation, as they too were glaring at me, standing alongside Sandy, our now soiled clothes scattered around. Sandy, clearly distraught, threw the soiled garments at me in a fit of frustration. "I'm going to charge you for the cleaning cost," she declared angrily. "Why should I?" I retorted. "It's because you didn't take him for a walk and left your clothes thrown on the floor." My parents chimed in, urging me to take responsibility for my actions. "Hey Kathy, shouldn't you at least apologize to Sandy first?" they said. "All of this happened because of that Muffin you brought home." As the accusations flew, I couldn't help but interject, "Can't we cut Muffin some slack? Puppies are like babies, they make mistakes sometimes." But my family seemed determined to blame me and our four-legged friend. "This situation only happened because of this stupid dog," my sister reiterated. "Kathy, you made the right choice by not getting married. If you became a mother, I doubt you'd raise a decent child." The comments grew harsher and my frustration grew. "How dare you say something like that?" I exclaimed. "If you took it for walks properly and kept the house tidy, none of this would have happened." Finally, my sister had had enough. She pointed at me and declared, "I can't take it anymore. I don't need you or this dumb dog. Get out of this house." The words hit me like a ton of bricks. "What?" I stammered. "Didn't you hear me? I said get out. We don't need a home-wrecking freeloader here." The accusation stung, especially coming from someone who knew well that I was currently jobless. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Who did they think was paying for the household expenses? It was me. As I stood there, bewildered by my sister's outrageous statement, even my parents chimed in, echoing her sentiments. "That's right, Kathy, leave this house. Your presence only makes us feel worse. You're a jinx. All of you, just get out," they repeated in unison, their voices echoing in the room. My anger reached its boiling point. I had had enough. "That's it. I've reached my limit," I finally burst out. "If this is how it's going to be, just wait." With that, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I packed my belongings and left the house, with Muffin in tow. Revenge was on my mind as I walked away. But the saga was far from over. A few days later, as expected, my sister reached out to me in a panic. "Kathy, help. The house." "What happened to the house all of a sudden?" I inquired, curious about the new twist in this ongoing family drama. We were told to leave by the end of this month, she replied, her voice filled with anxiety and desperation. The realization hit me like a punch in the gut, and I couldn't help but wonder if this was the universe's way of teaching my family a valuable lesson about compassion and understanding. Ah, so what's the problem here? Why do we suddenly have to leave? Sandy's voice quivered as she struggled to understand the situation. I've made the decision to sell the house, I calmly stated, and Sandy froze, disbelief evident in her trembling voice. She stammered, "What do you mean? You've decided to sell it? You don't have the authority." A month ago, the house had officially become mine, a fact I had kept to myself. "Yes, I received the house from my uncle, and the title is in my name," I revealed, causing Sandy to react with shock. "You're kidding, right?" Sandy's skepticism was evident. "Even if the title was transferred to you by uncle, you can't just sell it like that." I shared her concern but reassured her. "I was worried too, but right after you told me to leave, I consulted with uncle. He said the house is yours now, Kathy, do what you want. You should get away from that stupid family as soon as possible." Sandy was taken aback, unable to process this unexpected revelation. "What? No way." As our conversation continued, I couldn't help but wonder if my parents had been listening in on my discussion with Sandy through the phone speaker. They started to voice their objections. "Hey Kathy, cut it out. We have no other place to live if we leave the house." My parents chimed in, trying to appeal to my sense of family loyalty. "That's right, Kathy. It's unthinkable to do this to your own family. If you're a good daughter, show some respect to your parents." With a quiet but firm tone, I responded, "Respect? What are you talking about? You've always looked down on me compared to Sandy. Who do you think has been supporting your life for the past few years? You all had nowhere to live, so I reluctantly let you live with me." My parents were momentarily silenced by my unusually strong words. Without waiting for their response, I continued, "Who treated me and Muffin like nuisances and kicked us out? It was you guys, wasn't it? Trying to be happy by driving out the original resident is shameless. You people belong in hell." My father pleaded, "Please, Kathy, help us. We're sorry." I remained resolute, saying, "I don't care. Fend for yourselves, you idiots." With that, I abruptly ended the call and blocked every family member's contacts. Muffin, my loyal canine companion, looked up at me with a worried expression and I held him close. "I'm sorry, Muffin, for shouting," I whispered to him. "It's all right now. I will protect you." I was relieved that I had rescued Muffin from the family that had mistreated him. In the days that followed, I learned that my parents and sister had been forced to leave the house at the last minute, despite their desperate attempts to cling to it. My father's meager income and my unemployed mother and sister made it impossible for them to lead a decent life. Rumors circulated that my sister was constantly nagged by my parents to find a job, and their family relationships deteriorated further each day. While I had no interest in how they lived, there was no denying that their standard of living had plummeted since my departure. It was a classic case of reaping what they had sown, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. Meanwhile, I enjoyed a fulfilling life in my new pet-friendly apartment, free to work on my terms without anyone complaining. All my earnings were solely for myself and Muffin. I was genuinely content with my life. "Muffin, let's go to the dog park today," I said with a smile. Muffin seemed livelier, perhaps because that noisy family was no longer a part of our lives. Woof. From that day forward, I was determined to protect Muffin for the rest of our lives and lead a peaceful and happy existence.